everyone. This episode is about faith try to enter China through science, and China answer with an exam written by the sky. You know, the missionary came to China in Ming dynasty, and they try to preach their religion to the emperor, but that's not the first priority the emperor care about. They came to preach God. China tested their sky, maps, eclipses, and the imperial calendar. China began with a test, not a test of faith, a test of reality. Can you map the world? Can you calculate the sky? Can you predict an eclipse? Because in Imperial China, the sky was not just nature. The sky was politics. And the calendar was not Google Calendar. It was the operating system of the empire. A map is never just a map. A map tells a civilization where it thinks it stands inside reality. For centuries, China called itself the Middle Kingdom. Not because Chinese people were stupid, but because every civilization has a map in its head where it feels central. Europe had one. The Islamic had one. China had one. Then how to spell it?
Rixai.
The metal Rixai arrives with a world map, and suddenly the world becomes larger. There are oceans, continents, the Americas, strange kingdom, roots China had not imagined in the same way. The shock was not simply, oh, there are more countries. The deeper shock was, China is important, but China is not the whole stage. That's dangerous because a civilization can survive foreign goods, foreign music, foreign clocks, but a new map changes the location of the self. A map doesn't show. It just sits there quietly and rearrange your universe. Rexai's genius was that he did not humiliate China with a map. He translated the world into a form of Chinese scholar could study. He did not say your worldview is wrong. He said, look, the world is larger than you, your old friend. That's much more powerful. Humiliation creates resistance. Curiosity creates intro. He did not conquer China with a sword. He disturbed China with a map. Then came the sky test. Imagine the thing. 3 teams standing before the empire. Chinese astronomers, Muslim astronomer, Jesuit astronomer, no comment section, no Twitter fight, no academy panel with too many people pretending to be polite. Then one judged the sky. An eclipse is coming. Everyone makes a prediction. When the eclipse arrives, the universe grades the exam. That's why the comment is so cinematic. Because nobody can flatter an eclipse. Nobody can bribe the moon. Nobody can write a beautiful poem and makes a shadow arrive at different time. The sky doesn't care about your civilization or your title. It doesn't care about whether your robe is expensive. It asks only one question: did you calculate correctly? For the Jesuits, this was more than science. It was an audition. If they could predict the sky, they could become useful to the Son of Heaven. It means the emperor. And in China, usefulness was the first door to trust because emperor listened to the god. He watched whether their numbers survived the sky. The judge was not the emperor. The judge was the eclipse. Theology can be debated. An eclipse is harder to gaslight. And here's the part you often miss. The calendar in Imperial China was not just a calendar. It was not a planner or a cute app reminding you of your dentist appointment. It was the operating system of the empire. Agriculture ritual depended on it, state ceremony depended on it, the timing of sacrifice depended on it, the emperor's relationship with heaven depended on it. If the emperor was the son of heaven, then reading heaven correctly was part of his job description. So when the calendar failed, it was not merely a technical problem, it was symbolic damage. If you can't predict an eclipse, people might ask, are you still heaven's son? That's why Jesuit astronomy matter. They're not simply bringing interesting European knowledge. They were touching the sacred missionary of Chinese rule. In Europe, science often challenge religious authority. In China, Jesuit science entered by serving imperial authority. That's a cross-cultural twist. Same astronomy, different political meaning. In one world, science could disturb the church. In another world, science could help the emperor maintain the calendar of heaven. That's why the Jesuits were dangerous and useful at the same time. They brought knowledge, but knowledge never enters an empire innocently. Once knowledge can predict heaven, power wants to use it. In Emperor China, the calendar was not Google Calendar. It was sacred political technology. If the emperor misread the sky, it was not bad astronomy. It was bad legitimacy. So the missionary, they contributed the maps, calendar, and the sky to the emperor, and as an excuse to preach the religion to the empire, but it did not window as I talked about in previous episode. So this episode is just talking about how the things were the first priorities before God, before the faith, just to supplement the information so that you know more you have a much better understanding of what I'm talking about. Thank you. I'll see you next time.